stories we could share about that. And do you know what, I think when we look ahead to September, I don't know how you're feeling again with everything that's happening, but we can again trust that God is still at work. And tonight we're going to be chatting through a little bit about what next semester will look like. And we have the lovely Nay Dawson with us this evening, who's coming to share a little bit about what she's been doing during lockdown, but as well what next semester could look like as we potentially take Seeyou online. So we're going to hear a little bit about Nay now too.
Great. We say to hear a little bit from Nay, hopefully from Nay, as a way back in terms of my own personal life. When I was a student in Canterbury, having just become a Christian, Nay was one of those people who probably had quite a lot of sway over my life. And there's a horrible video that's on the internet somewhere in a hidden location of Nay interviewing me when I was about 6 or 7 stone heavier than I am on stage at Forum. And it basically seems like she's mocking the fact that I have a girlfriend. If you ever get to see that video, it's probably not one that should be seen publicly. And our director in COI, Mark Ellis, was asking if I could link him to it because he'd gone searching for it and couldn't find it recently. But Nay was the one who put me in that awful position in front of 1,000. I don't know how many students there were there. Was it over 1,000 students?
I mean, personally, I've forgotten the whole incident. I actually completely forgot it was you. I forgot I did it until you mentioned it 3 years ago. I've no idea where it is. Probably 1,000 people, yeah.
Didn't scar you, Nay, did it? No.
No, not at all.
But Nay, you have been involved in mission with Christian unions and students for a long time. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and then share a little bit of what you do now?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. It's really great to be with you all. Thanks so much. So I live in Southampton, married to John. We've got 2 little girls, Anya and Agnes, and obviously life in lockdown is pretty stressful. Working from home, both of us working from home, having kids who are like super angsty and annoyed with the fact they can't see their friends. So lockdown's been interesting for us, highs and lows every other hour. But my day job before that was working with Christian unions around Europe. So I've got 2 projects I'm working on. One is raising up female public creative evangelists. So any women that want to learn how to communicate the gospel creatively to their friends. And then secondly, the Uncover material. I've got a network of trainers across Europe that I'm helping to train, and then they're equipping their students to introduce their mates to Jesus through the stories in the Gospels. So yeah, that's what I was doing before lockdown. During lockdown, God's spoken to me really deeply, profoundly about many things. And one is just about what he's doing now in the church, in the body that we call the church. Ironically, without meeting in a church building, I feel like God's spoken lots about what the body really is. So I've been blogging and putting on events. Chris was laughing earlier about my obsession with putting on events, but trying to ask questions about what God's doing right now and helping people get online with the different things they're up to, the communities that they're building.
That's great. Thank you, Nay. We're genuinely privileged to have you here tonight with us, Nay, and we know that we joke, and then I was gently mocking you earlier for the number of events that you do, and I think it's as many hot meals as I have as the events that you're involved in. But it's actually a great privilege, therefore, to have you with us, because I know your time is very precious, but also you've developed a great wisdom and insight into what it looks like to do mission online and what that means. And with your context of understanding the student scene, whenever Lizzie and I were chatting, we thought you'd be a perfect person to kind of help us think through this stuff moving forward in terms of what does this next season look like, because it looks like a number of universities at the very least will be at least partially online, and what does that look like for Christian unions? And so it's a real joy to have you with us. Andy, you just put in the little chat there and about asking questions. Please do ask questions. Nay is here for that. She's great at answering questions. I've asked enough of her over the last 5-6 years, and I know that she's very good at answering them. So please do throw any questions you have, whether it's about what could Seeyou look like, about ideas that you've had, anything at all, anything that Nay comes up with as she's talking, do feel free, just throw it on Slido as well. And we look forward to hearing from you. There'll be a couple of opportunities for breakout rooms, and I know a couple of you will have to leave during this as well. So feel free to do that. But over to you, Nay and Andy.
Great, thanks so much, Chris. So first of all, I'd just love to know who you are. So in the chat function, I know there's like 3 whole screens of us, isn't there? In the chat function, can you just put your name and which university you're at or where you live, whichever one's more important to you, just so that we can see where everyone's from. So I've only been to Belfast, I'm really sorry. I've flown there twice, but I would love to know who you are tonight. So there's 3 whole screens, I'm just scrolling through. If you don't know how to do that, it's the arrow right. Yeah, put in the chat function your name and where you're from. We've got 61 participants, so that's amazing. Great, so we've got Gavin from Trinity, University College Cork, Dublin, Bangor. Anyone else on this call? Amazing. That's wonderful. So there's so many of us, aren't there, from around Ireland. And one of the things I love about being online is that we're together in a way that we wouldn't have been in any other capacity. And I really believe that we're stronger together. So take a moment to look at the 3 screens, scroll through, give everyone a wave. Literally, let's get our hands up. Say hello, because you guys are in this together, and it would be sad to not see the other pretty faces just because you're on screen 2 rather than screen 1. So yeah, I've been really enjoying thinking about how we build community online. That's what I've been thinking about during lockdown. And tonight we're going to be thinking about how you really pray and ask the Lord, what does he want of you as you think about building Seeyous online? Maybe you're building your Bible study groups online, maybe you're building Alpha or Uncover online, whatever it is. And I'm a 98% extrovert, so lockdown has been quite a trying time for me. My husband's a complete introvert, so we have to leave the house to give him space on his own. But I wonder how you found lockdown, whether it's been a time of loss and disappointment, whether you've done a fantastic DIY project, whether you've actually really enjoyed being an introvert and being not around people. I don't know how you've found that. For me, everything's changed. Even what it means to be salt and light in the community that I live in has completely changed. So for me, being salt and light in COVID-19 has meant offering community in a way that I've never offered it before. So I run daily Zoom chats for my kids and their class, 2:30 for Agnes, 4:30 for Anya, and we just invite anyone from their class to come on and have these Zoom chats. The little ones just laugh at each other and they bring a toy along to show each other. The older ones can talk for 90 minutes. And again, they bring their animals along, they chit chat, they play games, and they have a really great time. But for me, this new apologetic of community is something that my friends really, really want. So most of my friends are isolated, they're lonely, and they're just longing for community. And as Christians, we have the ultimate reason to offer community to our friends. We believe in a God who within himself is Father, Son, and Spirit. There's a relationship within God himself. And so as Christians, we can offer that community, which is so attractive. And it's amazing how my friends have responded. And actually the new friends that I've met, even in lockdown. But I want us to think about how we meet when we meet. So it's not enough just to offer community. We really need to push into how we meet. And it may be that you can begin to meet in person. I think Ireland has more access than we do. We can have 6 people outside a house. I think you can go, what's the difference between Ireland and England? There's some differences.
There's a number of differences generally now. But
on lockdown, I mean.
That's a good question. I see Isabel and Helen and Katie might have a better idea than I do in terms of that.
Yeah, so the North and the Republic are different again, but in the Republic you can go up to 20 kilometers currently.
Yeah, so there's differences, and by September when universities start again, it might be all different altogether again. So you want to be fluid and flexible as you think about building community. But I've been reading this amazing book by Priya Parker. It's called The Art of Gathering, and she's a professional gatherer. She's not an online gatherer, but her book has just really influenced me through lockdown. And as I've thought about how we gather and why we gather, it's really changed my thinking about how we gather online. So she says this: I've come to believe that it is the way a group is gathered that determines what happens in it and how successful it is. I'll say that again. I've come to believe that it is the way a group is gathered that determines what happens in it and how successful it is. So I want us to think about how we gather, because as lockdown happened and as churches went online, I noticed that many churches just went for a really simple, easy option of pre-recorded live streaming videos. So either something pre-recorded or a live stream video, a transmission of a message. There's barely any relationship, barely any community. And yet when you go back and think about your values and what makes church church, what makes Seeyou Seeyou, why do we gather? The church in its very basic form is the gathering of Christians. It's never been just a transmission of a message. And yet we've gone for this simple, like, of a message, a video that everyone just sits and listens to. There's barely any engagement or interaction. And it just really got me thinking about how we gather and why we gather. But I want you to help me out here. I'm not going to talk for the whole night. If we could have the first screen, Andy, or maybe actually the second screen by now. There's a guy called Eamon Holmes, a BBC journalist. You'll see him in a sec. And in 2009, yeah, the second one, thanks. In 2009, he was at the races in Cheltenham with some friends. He was in a box with 11 other men and this woman who wasn't his wife at the time. They were all chatting around this woman who was his girlfriend. And he looked at her and he thought, why is she not my wife? She's beautiful. Why is she not my wife? So this man, second slide if you can, Andy, famous journalist, got loads of power, loads of money. He decided he was going to propose to this woman. Now, I want you to try and imagine how you would propose if you were Eamon Holmes. What would you do? What would be the most amazing proposal that you could do to your girlfriend or boyfriend? Well, would you believe it? Eamon wrote a 6-page text message. Can you believe it? A 6-page text message when he had all the money, all the power, all the influence. He could have done anything. And my question to you is, what is it that doesn't sit right with proposing by text? Can you put in the chat function now, what is it that doesn't sit right with proposing to somebody by a text message? Let's see what you think. Anyone got any thoughts? What is it that doesn't seem right with proposing by text? Come on, let's be honest. Chuck them in the chat. Great, thank you everyone. So you're not actually with the person, thanks Gavin, it's not face to face, thanks Katie, lack of human interaction, no effort, yeah, absolutely Johnny. You won't be able to look lovingly into their eyes, impersonal, not personal, can be misunderstood, absolutely. It just doesn't sit right, does it, that Eamon Holmes proposed to his girlfriend, then fiance, by text. She said yes, I'm not sure why, but she did. Compared to my husband surprising me on a beach in Jersey, I didn't realise he was even on the island. He proposed, it was wonderful, it was really romantic. I'm sure Chris McBurney's got a great story of his proposal. But how we communicate something shows something of the message itself, doesn't it? How he communicated via that text showed something of the message itself, and how we communicate during COVID-19 says exactly the same. But I'd like to add to that, how we gather actually says something of the message itself. It says something of the God that we believe in. We don't believe in a God that just transmits a message. We believe in a God that invites us into a personal relationship with him. He invites us to come home with him. And so as we think about our meetings and how we gather next term, let's reflect the God that we actually believe in the way that we gather. So we're going to carry on thinking about that. And I'd love you to have a go in the chat again. What have you enjoyed most about online gatherings so far? Okay, so what have you enjoyed most about online gatherings? Oh, Chris doesn't have a good story. Never mind, Chris. So in the chat, what have you enjoyed most about online gatherings so far in your CUs? So good banter. Yeah, thanks, Matt. You can meet groups from anywhere. Absolutely. It's really nice to meet you all tonight. Anything else? Getting to interact with other CUs and seeing the big picture. Absolutely. And that's something worth thinking about, isn't it? For freshers and island-wide gatherings. Enjoyed funny stories that we're all able to share. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Time in prayer. Yeah, you can definitely focus, can't you? Any other things that you've really enjoyed? Wearing your pajama bottoms. Thank you, Amy. Yeah. What about the things that you've least enjoyed about gathering online? Be honest. I'd love to hear what you think. What are the things you least enjoyed? Yeah, always being late. If that was a good one or a bad one. Awkwardness, interrupting. Yeah, absolutely. Feels artificial, lack of voices, unstable internet, awkward silences. Yeah, so there's so many good things about gathering online, and there's so many negatives, aren't there? But I don't think just because it's hard that we should give up. I think we should stop and pause and dream big of what God wants to do in this time for us, but also for the new students that are arriving in September. What does God uniquely want to do in this point in the history of CUI that can only be done online or a hybrid version of online and in person? We really want you to dream big tonight. And so I want to ask these big questions of why you gather and what your purpose is in gathering. I wonder whether, Chris, it's okay to go into breakout rooms for 5 minutes or so to answer those questions. So why do you gather and what is your purpose in gathering? I think it's Andy, sorry, that's splitting this up. So if we could go into groups of 4 or 5, that would be amazing, Andy.
Perfect. How long would you like now as well?
5 minutes would be perfect, thank you.
No worries.
Great, so just really enjoy that conversation. Say hello to each other. If you've not been in a breakout room, just enjoy it. Thanks a lot. Actually, Andy, is it worth broadcasting those questions, or do you think everyone would have got them?
I think everyone's got them. Kim's
Yeah,
posted them in the chat as well, so you can
Oh,
see
thank
the
you.
answers as well. That's okay.
Thanks so much for doing this.
Oh, that's okay. The slide was up on my screen, but I don't think it went through on.
Yeah,
I was like, it's on the second screen.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was like, Andy.
No, it's okay.
No,
But
don't worry.
I think it's okay now.
Not the worst thing that happened. I was hosting this massive meeting for 400 people, and for some reason, halfway through what I was saying, mute went on my. I think it was someone in the team that did it accidentally. I didn't know how much I'd said, so I repeated the whole thing again. Oh, it's so embarrassing.
Oh, that's difficult.
Yeah, the early days when I was doing this for the first time, I definitely got like a Zoom sweat that I just like couldn't stop sweating. So stressful.
Especially if that's your day as well.
Yeah.
It's not a fun day.
Yeah. I don't mind the small meetings, it's the large ones that's just a killer. I refuse to do them anymore. Let's just let someone else do it.
Is this not a large meeting to you?
No, like I think, yeah, I've done. So I helped run the Christian Medical Fellowship conference with 940 people.
Oh wow.
And like the
Wow.
problem is it's the breakout rooms. At that number, officially Zoom can do it, but it's just almost impossible. You have to have like a supercomputer and internet connection, and it's still slow, and it's like this really stressful moment when it doesn't work.
That's incredible. Wow.
Yeah. Well, it was because conference is going online. You just get loads more people.
Yes. Yes.
I think you'll see that with Equip in the summer.
That'd be quite interesting, seeing how that all.
Yeah, like honestly, normally it was 440 people. Their annual conference went to 940.
Wow.
The Passion conference I ran went from 90 to 150. Yeah, maybe they're ready to come back. What do you think?
Yeah. No. That's what. Yeah. Yeah. People are coming back in now.
Right.
Hey guys, sorry.
Oh, you're okay.
Rubbish Wi-Fi. Nate is
Oh, did you get thrown out?
I'm so sorry that it cut out.
Oh, don't worry.
Can everyone see the slide all right as well on screen share? No.
Welcome back, everyone. We're slowly coming back in. Hope you enjoyed chatting to each other, trying to push through to the why we actually gather. It's a really big question, isn't it? I'd love to chat to you individually, find out why it is you are gathering. So just wait for the rest to come in. Here we go. Great, really warm welcome back, everybody. So we've been thinking about why we gather, why bother with gathering, and I think lockdown has forced us to stop and ask those questions. And actually, it's a really brilliant chance for you as Seeyou leaders just to stop and ask the questions afresh. Why is it that we're gathering? Why bother with Christian Union Online? Is this the time for CUI to actually stop, close its doors, and do nothing more again? And if the answer is no, then why? Why are we gathering? And I'd like to actually, our friends out there are in desperate need of hope. Sadly, early in lockdown, one of my good friends, a mum from school, she died of terminal cancer. Days before she died, she came to know Jesus. And in her death, she found peace. And she said to me that she believed everything I said, that she knew that she would go and live with Jesus and one day would live in the new heaven and the new earth forever. And it was amazing to see her life change and her belief change just in those last 3 days. And it struck me that our friends need Jesus. They need to find hope in Jesus. If there was no hope in lockdown, I'm just not quite sure where I'd be. So why gather online? Why bother with the Christian unions? You want to go back to your original question of why have a Christian union? So again, back to my favourite new book, The Art of Gathering, Priya Parker says this: take the reasons you think you're gathering and keep asking why you're doing it. Every time you get to another deeper reason, ask why again. Keep asking why until you hit a belief or a value. And I'd really like to encourage you tonight, not just to replicate what you've always done in CUI, but actually to think afresh, what is it that God wants us to do now? Where are my friends at? Where is the campus at? How can I reach them best with the good news of Jesus Christ? So you really need to know, first of all, why you're gathering, why you're meeting. And again, Priya describes it like this, that purpose is your bouncer. The purpose of your gathering is more than just an inspiring concept. It is a tool, a filter that helps you determine all the details and all the grand and even the grand and the trivial. To gather is to make choice after choice, and virtually every choice will be easier to make when you know why you're gathering. So don't just think because you're CU leaders you know how to do it. I'd say stop and pause and ask the Lord afresh how he wants you to gather and why he wants you to gather in this time. So you want to think about your values, about why you're gathering, but secondly, you want to think about who you'll invite and where you'll meet. And that's really important. So on a Thursday night at 7:30, I run a chat on Facebook now, actually on Facebook Rooms, and all the mums and dads from Year R come along with their wine. And we started off on Zoom. There were about 15 people that came, and it was really good until my neighbour, I won't say her name, she came along and she just couldn't stop talking. I mean, I'm sure in Ireland there's loads of people who can't stop talking. There's probably one now, he's not on mute, Kenneth. But she came along and she couldn't stop talking, and this amazing evening with wine and chat with our friends suddenly was ruined. And everyone nominated me as the person to talk to this friend about it, which is really awkward and really difficult. But actually in that conversation, I said to her, is it possible you could just speak a little bit less and we can encourage everyone else to speak? And she said to me, "Nay, I won't come along again." And I said, no, that's not what I'm saying. We want you to come, but we want you to understand the etiquette of what's going on. So you've got to think really carefully about who you'll invite and where you'll meet. And I guess that's similar to your vision and values in the Christian Union, but where you'll meet's really important. Just because we're meeting on Zoom tonight doesn't mean that you have to have your CU meetings on Zoom. There's so many different platforms, and you know best the platforms that you enjoy. And in fact, in the chat, would you just put, what's your favourite platform to use? Which platform do you inhabit most of your time? So the platforms could be Facebook, Instagram, might be gaming. There's a whole load of them. So just pop in the chat, where do you inhabit most of your time? Which platform do you use? Great, so you've got a variety, Insta, TikTok, Discord. So it's really important that you remember who you are, your values of who you are, and that will then shape where you meet. So if Zoom is just a bit clunky and a bit weird and it's not really you, then maybe you should rethink and do something on Instagram. Or maybe you should have a bit of Zoom and a bit of WhatsApp and a bit of Instagram. But where you meet has got to be in line with what your values are. So make sure you get them first. It's really worth thinking about numbers as well. Lots of people have said to me that church online can't be relational if you've got a really big church. But I don't think that's necessarily true. There are some magic numbers on the next slide: 6, 12 to 15, 30, 120 to 150, and 150 plus. I'd love you to put down in the chat again what size your groups are, either your main meeting or your Bible study group. So the thing that you're responsible for. What numbers are we looking at? So the groups that you're responsible for, what numbers are they? So whether they're in the 6 category, the 12 to 15 category, the 30 category, 120 to 150. No, oh, here we go. So we've got a 30. Okay, great. So we've got some 30s, 40 to 50. Anyone else? Love to see what numbers you're a leader for. 60 to 100. 12 to 15, 12 to 15. Yeah, great. So there are some magic numbers. So at the number 6, it's a high level of sharing. You know, imagine when you can meet in person, you had that 6. In fact, for most of us in the UK now, we can meet in groups of 6. You can have a high level of sharing in a group of 6. And online, the optimal conversation happens in groups of 4 to 5. So you just want to really think about what size your groups are so that everyone can actually share. In a group of 12 to 15, it's small enough to build trust and intimacy, but it's large enough to offer diversity and opinion. So it looks like quite a few of you are meeting in that 12 to 15 slot. Once you get to 150 plus, there's intimacy and trust is still possible but above this, you just become an audience. So the point of sharing these numbers is that if you're a really large Seeyou, you can gather in this really large number of 150, where you get some level of intimacy and trust. But if you want high levels of sharing, then I really recommend you split down into Facebook rooms or into Zoom groups or into WhatsApp chat or whatever it is that you like to use. But if you actually want to have real intimacy and a high level of sharing, you've got to get down to numbers lower than 6 and preferably 4 to 5. So think about who you're going to invite and where you're going to meet. And it's okay as a host to be totally in control. In fact, I think the best hosts are absolutely in control. It doesn't mean that you have to have your face on the screen. In fact, the best hosts are almost invisible, but they've completely planned it out. In fact, leaders really need to be responsible and plan, particularly in a pandemic. But they're completely in control, and that means you can care and you can love for your guests. To go back to my Thursday, 7:30 p.m, we have 15 women on this call, and it's complete mayhem because this one woman just can't stop talking. Everyone's switching off, getting really bored, and I'm not caring for all of my guests if I just let her carry on. Like, secretly, I want to be a chill host where I don't have to do anything. I just let everyone talk and it's all fine. But actually, the best party is the one that's really well planned and the guests are really thought about and cared for. And so I'd really encourage you, as you go online, just go slightly over the top in your planning and preparing so that everyone's welcome, they've all got a voice, they're all heard together. But also where you meet is really important. So let's have a look at these next photos. Each venue has a script, doesn't it? If you look at hopefully it'll come up, Andy, the next one, if that's possible. If you look at these different photos, one is of a beach, one is of a boardroom, one's of a nightclub, and the other one's a law court. So each of these venues has a script. Just think of your favourite one, the beach, the law court, the business room, or the nightclub. What script does that venue give you before you even have to say anything? Thanks, Andy. What are the different scripts that they share? So the beach one, put in the chat, what script does that tell you before you even go there? Or maybe the boardroom, what script does that have? What do you think? Yeah, chill at the beach. Thanks, Chris. What else does the beach tell you? Golden hour, yeah. Spike ball, oh, if only. How about the boardroom? What does that tell you? Pop it in the chat. What's the script that it gives you? Organised, yeah. Formal, yeah. What about the law court? Have a look at that. What does that tell you? What's the script that it gives us? Yeah, structure, nervous, order. And then finally the nightclub, what's the script there? Not sure of hectic, noisy party. These are people in lockdown. Heathens, oh, fun, loud. Yeah, so each venue you can see has a different script, doesn't it? And a venue is a nudge to what you're gonna achieve, what you want to do in your gathering. So where will you gather? When you choose a venue just for logistical reasons, you're letting those logistics override your purpose. And so I want us to really think carefully about which social media platform you're going to use, which one is actually going to create the best engagement with either new freshers or with existing Seeyou members or friends that haven't yet been to Seeyou. How could you meet in a place where people feel most comfy? How can you meet in a place that inhabits the world that they already live in? So seek a setting that embodies the reason for your meeting. And when the place embodies an idea, it brings a person's body and its whole being into experience, not just their mind. So tonight I've chosen to sit in my beautiful fireplace. I wanted you to feel like you were in my living room. I wanted you to imagine that maybe you could come over for dinner or have, drink with us and enjoy a chat with us. I could have chosen my study with a load of books. I could have stood up. It would have made a difference to how you'd felt about the environment. And so we've been playing with this a little bit as a family. If we have the next screen, we've got a friend called Kate. She's eaten 190 meals alone in lockdown, and she's really lonely. And so we decided to have dinner on Friday night. And so in the post, we packaged up the main course for her and her favourite drink. And we sent it to her in the post, and she sent us pudding. You'll see this. There's a nice pink package coming up. Yeah, this is it. This is Kate's dinner. So we sent her main course. She sent us pudding. And then at 7:30 p.m. last Friday, we ate together. And it just meant so much more that we were eating exactly the same food, exactly the same time. Yes, we were in lockdown, but we were just trying to push the relational boundaries of technology to its absolute limits, because ultimately we believe in community, because we believe in a God who has community at his very heart. And so all these little things seem to matter an awful lot, whether that's eating the same food together, whether it's wearing the same clothes, or whether you're in a beautiful living room rather than just a really boring room. So think about where you meet and what that communicates again about the message. So I really want to encourage you, thirdly, don't be a chill host. Be someone that sees that it is really godly to plan and prepare for the autumn, and to plan and prepare the absolute details of your meetings. And by doing that, you protect, equalize, and you connect your guests. So I'm sure all of us have been in a meeting that was just really awkward, really difficult, possibly even really boring, and it just didn't communicate anything to us. You have an opportunity to look at the best technology can offer, take the values that you've got as Seeyou leaders and match them together in this time. I want to show you the next slide. This is my favorite event so far. Bitton Park's Got Talent. This is my youngest daughter, Agnes. We decided about 6 weeks ago that the kids were getting really sad without each other. So I did an open invite to the whole school, 660 families, and said, would anyone like to come to Bitton Park's Got Talent by Zoom? So we invited them all to submit a 60-second video of their child's talent. And then we put them all onto a PowerPoint. And at the end, we had a nice little disco of 3 songs. But this is my daughter, Agnes. This is her talent. And it was so amazing because the 30 families sat there on Zoom. We watched each talent. Then we did lots of reaction buttons. We chatted lots. And it was just this amazing feeling of togetherness. And the next slide shows you their reactions afterwards. It's just so lovely. So this is a word cloud of encouragement. And you can just see right in the middle, like people really loved it. All these lovely words about what a great community it was, what a great event it was. And I recently had a student contact me from Pakistan. It was a bit strange. I wasn't quite sure who he was. And he said, could you help me? The Christian students in Pakistan just don't come to meetings anymore. They're finding online really boring and they're not engaging. And I said, but what did you used to do together for fun? And he just shared a few things with me. And I said, why don't you have a really good social, an event that brings people back together, that has fun, and as someone earlier said, has some bants in it. And he said, yeah, great, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to try an online quiz for the first time to build community. But really, it's up to you guys. What do you want to do in your Seeyou? How can you build community? You know technology far better than any of us. What's the technology that you really want to inhabit and to create this wonderful new online relational community? And also just like to encourage you, there's something else I found that I think is really amazing. The next slide, please. It's something called Padlet. And we use it both at my church for online 24/7 virtual prayer rooms, but we've started to use it in IFES as well. This is a collaborative board, and you can use it for anything, but we use it for prayer. And it's a great way across countries, across different movements, to share prayer requests, to share stories of what God is doing. So as you think about technology and you think about going online, you really want to be finding the best that you can in terms of collaborative tools that can be used to bring your Seeyous together. So as I said earlier, we've got the most amazing reason to believe in community. And I sadly heard of quite a few churches that just closed their doors and they said, no, we're not doing anything in lockdown. I really honestly wonder after lockdown what's going to happen to those churches. I really believe that there's this opportunity to actually have a far broader and deeper reach by operating online. I've heard so many good stories of what God's been doing. One of them is my pastor. He's 70 and he moved to the Isle of Wight near us to care for his parents. They don't have internet, they don't have a laptop. He comes to church every week by his telephone, and his parents hadn't been to church before lockdown. They've been to church every week, they've started reading the Bible, they've both become Christians. And it's on speakerphone, on a phone. It's nothing like amazing at all. And yet God is working in this incredible way to bring people to himself. And you'll find if you really invest in online work, you'll reach people that just would never have come to see you. So maybe that's people who are housebound for whatever reason. Might be depression, might be a chronic illness. But also I've heard recently of Muslim students and Muslim women in Southampton who could not go to an Alpha course that they wanted to go to because they literally couldn't leave the house. They'd be questioned. And yet they're now doing Alpha online every single week, secretly, without anyone from their houses knowing. So you just don't know the opportunities there are to reach people. But also something I've realised in lockdown is the disabled community have been online for decades now. The disabled community, according to Lausanne, is the most unreached people group in the entire world. And yet if you meet online and you do that well with captions, maybe even with signing, then you can actually again reach another entire new community that you maybe not have reached through your Seeyou meetings. So I want to encourage you that one, relationship could be really good online. I know in many ways it's not ideal. There could be a good hybrid version of meeting up in person and online. And I want to encourage you that there's this open door right now for the good news of Jesus to be shared, both in word, but also in the way that we offer community and hope to our friends. And I want to say that offering community can be really scary, right? So for me, I'm just Nay, and I put out a message on Facebook, any parents from the entire school want to come to Bitten Park's Got Talent. Of course I'm thinking, what are they going to think of me? Do they think I'm too much? Am I a bit over the top? Of course I'm worried, but I think this is the time that we need to forget ourselves and remember that the Lord has called us to be salt and light. And for you guys, that's in Ireland. You've got this wonderful open door. So I'd really encourage you to ask your questions about what that really looks like. How do you do that in this time of chat now? But let me just finish with reading this. We have the most incredible reason to believe in and offer community and relationship at this time, because we believe in a God that is relational to the core. From the very beginning of time, he was Father, Son, and Spirit. And my prayer for you is that simply you offer this community and hope and relationship online to students that don't know Jesus, but also students that just need to know more of what it means for Jesus to call them home in this time of lockdown. So please ask your questions away on Slido, and I think Chris, Lizzie will take over.
Great, thank you so much, Nay. It honestly is such a joy and an encouragement to have you with us. And guys, I don't know about you, but I am just so excited about the opportunities that we have this next semester to have Seeyou online, and even just the reminder of how God is at work in this season. It really is just a beautiful reminder of that. And as we think about where we're all at across Ireland, there's so many of us, and we're from all across Ireland, from Dublin to the north coast to the coast of Donegal for me. And I want us to have a think now about where we're all at and what our Seeyous look like specifically. So come September, we're going to be having Freshers Weeks across the whole island of Ireland. And Freshers Weeks are such an incredible time where we can facilitate freshers making friends with each other. We can have this community, but we can also share Jesus with them. And I want you guys to think now, maybe and maybe this is done after, but I want you to have a think in breakout rooms about what this would look like for your Freshers Week. And the campuses I help with from UUB, Ulster University Belfast, are an incredible creative campus. So a Freshers Week for them would look completely different to a Freshers Week at, say, Stranmillis, the teaching college I work with too, that have a wonderful, hospitable nature to them, and some of the most warm students ever. So I want you guys to think about what this would look like for your campus, what it would look like for your campus specifically. And we're going to do that in breakout rooms in a second. But also have in the back of your head any questions. So Nay's going to be with us for a little bit longer. And if you have any questions, keep firing them into Slido and we can ask her more. But for now, I want you guys to think, what does this look like for you right now in September when we're coming to the Freshers' Weeks? And, you know, this is a real opportunity for us. Again, just such an encouragement hearing Nay, hearing how God is at work. And Chris is going to share with us now even what this looks like in small groups and across our whole Seeyou year.
Yeah, thanks, Lizzie. I think that small groups are about to come into their own. Anyone who works with me, is near me, knows I'm a massive fan of small groups. I'm delighted to say that this week, Andy, who's been hosting this meeting, has come on as effectively our small group guru in CUI over the course of this next year. And so he's going to be developing our resources and what we have available for you guys. But as Nay was saying, we are not going to be able to meet as one big corporate body. And she's been giving us some really wonderful ways that we can look at what does it look like to meet online, to gather together. I was having a chat with Michael Otts, who's coming actually, who Nay works very closely with, but he's coming to speak at Queen's Mission Week this year. And I know one of the things he was saying to Queen's was, well, you guys can still meet in groups of 6. What would it look like for you to socially distance meet and have a mission week, potentially, that's meeting in 6s across Belfast, and the opportunity that that has? And one of the things that Andy and I have been chatting through, as Andy sort of been developing the role of small groups in CU, is sort of, we have an opportunity for small groups to be areas, sorry, my Siri's going off. We have an opportunity where small groups can gather, can pray in little groups, and you guys can really encourage one another and really build the vision of CU into the very, very fringes of your CU. And I think this is an incredible opportunity to show hospitality, to show warmth, relationalness. You know, I think that's a word. But this is something we're really looking to develop and really looking to grow in. And you look at the university students of today, they really want genuine, true relationships. They want real conversation. They want to have, yes, Siri does love small groups, Helen Blakely. But we need to be thinking through, what does this mean as small groups kind of come together? And yet we do the big online stuff, but how could you utilize small groups during your Freshers Week? How could you be serving those that you really do find as your neighbour? It might be that person, the people in the row who live in the same houses as you, in the same flat as you. What would it look like for you in your little small group to really serve them? And Andy will be doing a lot more thinking on this over this coming period of time. But I'd love you to think through as well, how could small groups provide a real opportunity for you guys, not just for Freshers Weeks, but as you move through? I know one thing that I was chatting to Queens about a little bit was, what would it look like for you guys to try and use Uncover Mark and really get Uncover Mark into the hands of every CU member? The idea that you could study Mark's Gospel together in small groups at the start of the year, allowing every student to be equipped and being able to open up the Bible with their friend. These are things that we really want to look at. And actually, after we come back from breakout rooms in the Q&A, we're actually going to share a little bit of what we're going to be doing, at least in the north, in regards to reading Mark. But Andy, I'm pretty sure you probably have breakout rooms probably sorted in some form. Just to say thank you to Andy again, because Lizzie and I, for any of you who know us, are entirely hopeless with this stuff. So thank you. But if you go away, we'll come back in, Andy, what is it? Can you do 7 minutes? Is that a thing, Andy? Can you do 7 minutes? Yeah, let's do 7-minute breakout rooms. Great. Thank you.
don't think I've got sent to one yet.
Thank
How
you.
you feeling about starting with CUI?
Say that again, sorry.
How are you feeling about starting with CUI?
Excited, quite excited.
Yeah.
So I've been here for relay, which has been great.
Okay, fine. So you've been there
So
before.
it's very much just continuing on from relay, which is good. Which is good. Because relay is so short otherwise. Because of moving here and settling and understanding the culture and the work, the CE that I'm working in is so different. Queens is dramatically different from Canterbury. So like once I've understood that and formed a relationship there, I'm very happy to be able to carry on.
Yeah, and actually moving in lockdown would have been terrible, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I do feel for the relay workers that are coming come September. It will look, yeah, it'll look quite different, I think.
Yeah, what have you got all the relays in place for CUI?
Yes, I think so. Are you happy there, Lizzie? What are you doing?
I'm so sorry. My Wi-Fi again literally cut out. This has been such. I'm so sorry, guys. This Wi-Fi is next level bad tonight. Like, I was so sad. It kept like cutting out. I was like, this is so good. Like, no. So stressful. I'm so sorry. Don't know what is up with it tonight. I actually might even use just my phone data. Maybe that's better or would work better.
Lizzie, what are the questions?
Let's check. Oh, we've got quite a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
As in for the breakout rooms for freshers.
More just to think about what a freshers week could look like on their campus.
Is that the same for small groups as well?
Yep, just more for their context, what it could look like.
And then what about for small groups? What was the question for small groups?
Yeah, maybe something similar. More so like how can we facilitate or create a small group community come September, or what could that look like for your campus?
Amazing, that's gone through, hopefully.
Andy, you're an absolute star, honestly.
Really frustrating that just the share screen wasn't working.
Yeah, strange, wasn't it? Was it 2 ahead you needed to go?
No, it just wouldn't move. So
Strange.
it was on my screen, it was on the right slide, and then you're like next slide, I'm like it's on the right slide.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's so annoying.
It's not your problem at all, but
to be honest, I hate screen sharing. I always get someone else to do it because
it's, yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. But we got there in the end. It's just when I was presenting the PowerPoint, it wouldn't change screen.
So.
No idea how it works in Zoom. Zoom is still a mystery to me as much as I've tried and tried. It's wonderful though, such a good tool. What are the Slido questions like?
Oh yeah, they're nice actually.
We don't have all too many, but good questions through. Is there a way to mute everyone on entry?
So if you were doing a Facebook Live event, which is what you've done before, isn't it, CY, can you share that from your screen into someone else's? Oh, everyone's back. Sorry, everyone. Personal chat with Andy.
Welcome back, everyone. That felt like, I felt like we had touched on the start of a conversation. So I do apologize for how brief that was. One real encouragement to you guys, and I think, you know, any of you who were at the strategy day that we did in the north, the principle's the same, and the principle goes out to anyone here. These are only conversation starters. Take these in with your committee. You know, I'm sitting here, and on my screen at the minute I have the wonderful Dean Martin. Dean, take these conversations at Strand, run them through. You know, what does this look like for you in your context? We now have the pleasure of being able to do about 20 minutes, 19 minutes of Q&A with the wonderful Nay Dawson. A number of you have written in questions, and already some strung up voting going on here. Nay, our hope was that maybe if we bounce through these questions and sort of throw them at you, see what sticks, and then, you know, we can always add anything if we need to. But if that's okay with you.
Great.
Great. And feel free to continue to keep using Slido while we're in the Q&A. There might be stuff that you really want to press in on after you've heard Nay say something. Well, why don't we start with that top one? Do you have any suggestions as to how we can equip and encourage our Seeyou members to do personal evangelism online and in person? I should say Nay is the person who probably challenged and taught me the most about evangelism personally and online. So I'm excited to hear these answers now.
Oh, thanks, Chris. So I've been really moved by the passage in 1 Thessalonians where it talks about we loved you so much that we not only shared the gospel with you, but we shared our lives as well. And I've been really struck in lockdown that my friends need me to share my life with them as well as my words. And that is surprising because in lockdown, I can't really share much with them. But for us, that's meant caring for our friends, genuinely caring for them. Lots of my friends have gone into the poverty line. So we've done relocating of food most evenings from the co-ops to people's homes. I've phoned people up. I've taken around flowers. So I think firstly, make sure you love your friends with your lives, like share your lives, the honestness of your lives. But also, even though we're in lockdown and we can't meet in big groups, you can still share the gospel. So my favourite moment of lockdown was a Facebook watch party, and I shared the 10-minute evangelistic talk from the Easter service from my church. Did it on a Facebook watch party, and 3 friends came, and I accidentally had it running all day on another page that I'd set up, so hundreds of people watched it as well. But 3 friends came to the event, and my pastor tries to do really interactive talks, because actually remember your talks when you do them in Seeyous. Facebook events are only 12 to 15 minutes, so don't do really long talks. They need to be engaging and interactive. You could do 2 lots of 15-minute talks, but not a 30-minute talk. Anyway, the talk was really engaging, and he said, he asked a question, have you ever had a reality check in lockdown? And my friend Alex on Facebook chat was like, beep, 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 beep. Of course I have. This whole like effing lockdown is a reality check. So I was like, okay, what's your language? And then a few minutes later, he said that God could raise people from the dead. Do you believe that God can raise people from the dead? Yes, no, maybe. And we put yes, and she put maybe. And then a minute later, she said, nay. If God can raise people from the dead, why are my dad, mother, and sister still dead? And this is on Facebook Watch Party. And I was like, Alex, amazing question. Do you mind if we chat later? Because that's a really big thing to try and talk about. So we carried on watching. And obviously at the prayer bit, when my pastor was praying, she'd gone to the toilet. because she came back in, and again she was like, beep, 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 I missed the prayer. Where's the prayer? I want to hear the prayer. So I rewound the video on Facebook Watch Party. I don't even know if you should do that or not, but I did, and we rewatched the prayer for a second time. And I then said, do you want to chat on Zoom? So we had 90 minutes talking on Zoom. And she basically said to me, Nay, I can't believe in God because he's just this really awful, power-hungry God. And we basically had this amazing chat. I'll stop there. But it ended up me taking Luke's gospel to her house with my gloves on. And we talked about who God really was as a loving father. So I think, again, be yourself. You know, think about your friends. Think about who you are. Whether that's an evangelistic book club, Uncover Mark one-to-one, whether it's a Facebook watch party, or some other bonkers creative idea that only you can come up with, you're the only one in your friendship group. So just make sure you love them and share the gospel with them. My friend Rosie, on her driveway every day, she has these boxes of hope, and she gives away Bibles, and she puts really funny quotes, and obviously the President Trump holding the Bible, that was one of them. But she's just being herself. So I think that's the most important thing in this time. Love your friends with your lives and share the gospel with them.
That's really helpful, May. I think that's so true as well. And it's both of those things, which is great. I was saying to Andy and Lizzie, it might have been just yesterday, I had a friend who texted me. I'd been working with her, and her granny was dying, and she was like, and we were like, oh, we'll pray for her. And, you know, we took the funny little picture, I say funny little picture, but a picture of Orla and I praying for her and sent it to her, and she showed her mum and things. And they thought her granny was actually just going to die, like genuinely. And they were like, look, she's lost, she's gone, it's just really sad. We don't know what's going to happen. And we didn't hear anything. And so we texted her and said, Granny seems to be getting better. And we were like, oh, really interesting. Right. Okay. And we're like, oh, we'll continue to pray for her. And she's like, oh, I've told my mum that you're praying, and I've told my dad you're praying. And we got a text like not that long ago. It was like last week. And she was like, Chris, I don't know what to say, but I think Granny's been healed. And we were like, what? And she's like, well, mum says that like your prayers might have done something, like, and she told me to text you and let you know that. And it was one of these surreal moments of, you know, that has not happened with most of the people that we've been praying for, just to say that grannies are not rising from the dead across Cumber. But what we really taught us was, you know, we've been praying for a number of people, and a lot of people want prayer, and actually that's a really easy thing for us to do in this period as well. We're not able to necessarily always be able to share the gospel with them as easily, or we're not always able to physically serve them, but we can tell them that we're praying for them. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to stop there.
Our next question says this: do you have any specific event ideas for freshers and events weeks?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. And I think someone else has put, how can we plan when we don't know what's going to happen? I mean, I guess Chris, Lizzie, Andy will give you official CUI advice. So I don't really know how to answer the kind of, should we plan online or in person? I think you probably need a hybrid version. But I was really moved the other week. I was part of the Scottish Christian Union's Events Week online, and all of the CUs in Scotland got together and put on this incredible events week. And I was chatting to Chris and Lizzie the other week, just saying, why don't you think about a kind of island-wide Freshers Week, or an event where you all come together? I think as you think about your freshers and your events, I'd go back to what your values are, what you used to love doing when you met in person. And I remember that, don't just go for ease, simplicity, or what others are doing, but what did you used to do? What can you do in this time? And then work out the best technology of how you do that. And it might be some really new creative things come up. And I think just remember that, you know, you love technology. Most of you are living and inhabiting it most days. So try and pray and be like, God, how do you want me to use this technology that I know and use so often, in a way to gather people, in a way to get questions asked, to raise curiosity, to share something of the good news of Jesus. So it might just be a mixture of remembering what you used to do, what you think God's calling you to do now, what can be done with technology, what's unique for this time period. No other students have joined uni in a pandemic. I mean, that's a unique selling point, isn't it, for your freshers? So yeah, I think that's probably my answer.
And there are so many unique opportunities that we have online via Zoom or other means of contacting people too. But also thinking back to our strategy day that we had weeks ago, we're thinking about what our campuses look like, and every single one of you will have a different campus, and what will work for you guys will be different from campus to campus. For example, I mentioned UUB, the wonderfully creative campus earlier. They could have something like a photography competition or a competition centered around a theme where they can enter in art or photos around a certain theme and be able to engage with that in the gospel too, a way of creating community, but also allowing the freshers to engage and enter in their own artwork in that too. Or I was actually chatting to Dean earlier. Dean, I'm going to call you out. And we were talking about if having in small numbers, could you do something as cringy as speed friending? If precautions allow it, sit across from each other and have speed friending. So it could be a blend of online or in-person events too. But really do think about what your campus looks like. It will vary from campus to campus, and that will be shaped by who goes to your university, what your students look like, and the interests there.
That's really helpful. One that I think is actually a really interesting question now. How do we get a greater reach when the majority of our followers are already Christians? I imagine you're probably talking about your Seeyou account is likely to be lots of Christians on there. Now, have you got any advice on, as we're coming into this, there's not going to be the same opportunity to, have people randomly walk up to a lunch bar. Flyering probably won't happen in the same way. Have you got any advice on how we maximize our reach come Freshers Week?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, so in the lockdown, I've set up an initiative called Community in a Crisis, and we've been helping churches get online and putting on events. And we started running them as closed events on Zoom. You had to register for them. We did it, recorded it, did nothing with the recording. And then we decided to put the recording on YouTube, and people started watching them. And apparently for every one person that attends an event, if you show it later as a recording, 5 to 10 more people will watch it per person. And we definitely saw some people, watch it afterwards. And then last week we started using something called StreamYard, which looks like and it's good for a Q&A panel, not for a gathering, because it's maximum 6 people. But if you've got a panel event, you have these like 6 people on the panel. It looks like Zoom, but it goes instantly to YouTube and to Facebook, and then it is scheduled and people are interested, but it also stays there afterwards. And it's fascinating seeing the contrast in the engagement by instantly going to the place where people inhabit compared to putting up a recording later on. And actually the number of followers have increased both on the Facebook page and on the YouTube channel far significantly than when I did it the previous ways. So I would say if there's a way of certain events, maybe not all of them, putting them straight onto Instagram Live or onto Facebook Live and keeping them there, and then making sure you share them. So I don't know if you can do this for Facebook, but certainly with the StreamYard, as soon as it's showing onto Facebook Live, I can then share that in multiple groups and pages and put it on my news feed so that any of my mates, Christian, non-Christian, can join in. And it works because people have got in touch with me to say, no, I didn't even know you were running an event. I was just sitting on Facebook. All these notifications came up. It went on your news feed and I stayed for the whole hour and a half. And there's been story after story of that. So that's where I think, maybe not for everything, but for a lot of your events, if you want to reach out to people, you can have a huge reach just by inhabiting social media in a way that, watch Facebook, watch Nonna Jones, head of faith for Facebook. She's developing some fantastic things on how to be online as a person of faith. So yeah, I think you can have a huge reach. Just don't do too many closed events or save them for special things, and make sure you just put everything out there afterwards, or if you can, live.
Yeah, that's really, really helpful now. I think that's quite big. And again, I think, and it kind of ties into the next question now, and maybe you have some thoughts on that as well, but I think as well, if you're moving into flats or you're living somewhere, your neighbor is still going to be your neighbor to a point. And again, what we've been encouraging across the course of this year is, those people near you, the people that you're living with, the people that you're you're close to. I know a number of you will still be going into university accommodation. Some of you won't be, but there'll still be people in your courses as well. We still have the opportunity to still have that active invite. You're right that it does look different for freshers, but as freshers come in and hopefully capture the vision of what the Seeyou's there for, and reaching your friends and inviting your friends, hopefully they'll be able to invite those people that they've met. And it's a very invitational thing. And I think it'd be quite a weak model if suddenly, you know, we go from Seeyou being an invitational thing to then we go online and suddenly it's only cold sharing, it's only the Instagram posts or the Facebook sharing. But Nate, do you have any thoughts then? Sorry, sorry, Lizzie, maybe taking over your question there. But as I was tying that in, Nate, do you have any ideas on how we maybe do think through the, as things are kind of constantly changing, how do we plan ahead in this time? Or do we?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit paranoid and I like to prepare and think things through on one level. So I've been invited to 2 conferences, one in August, one in September. And I said yes. And then I was like, what on earth are you doing? You can't, they're both in other countries. How on earth are you going to fly there? So I panicked and I said, look, you need to have a plan B. I need to be able to Zoom in or pre-record, whatever, if I can't fly there or if I've got a quarantine for 14 days afterwards. So I think there's one option of making plans, but having plan Bs as well. But also I just think it'd be so sad if online really does have an incredible reach to people that would never normally come. We don't want to just stop doing online. We ran a conference March the 20th, just as the UK was going into lockdown. We went from a conference in person to an online conference. We had 99 women sign up. When we took it online in 4 days, we went to 150 women. Originally, it was just British women. It went to women from all around the world. And that just made me think, you know, don't ever just go back to meeting in person. Always think about how you could put it online for those that can't come for a whole variety of reasons. So maybe you just need to have like a multiple Gantt chart or swimming lane or some sort of project management sheet that helps you think about a couple of options, but really get your values about what events you really want to run and then have, you know, different options of how you run them. But I personally, I'm not sure, Chris, Lizzie, what you think, but large meetings, surely they're not going to be anytime soon. So you definitely need to think about being online for large meetings.
And yeah, we can have the amazing opportunity of meeting online on Zoom. And that actually does lead us nicely into our next question. We're going on a flow here. And when we're thinking about Zoom, sometimes we can feel maybe fatigued from it and different things. And we do have these incredible opportunities online. But how can we get people continuing to want to gather online when people are maybe tired of using Zoom? Do you have any advice or other ways we could use or other platforms and on that now?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think your meeting short and highly interactive and engaging. Like, you've probably seen the stats of how quickly people switch off when they're watching videos. You're 10 times more likely to switch off in a conference call than you are in person. So you want to make sure whatever you do is really well thought through. I really love the way Lizzie and Chris introduces. They were just talking about rubbish, weren't they? Talking about those films. But it's just a really nice, friendly way to introduce a meeting. So one thing is to keep your meetings shorter than normal, probably half the content of what you normally do, but make them highly engaging and interactive. And then just try and vary up the platforms. One of the problem is all of our life is now on Zoom or however you're going to do your uni work. And so varying up how we feel. Tim Keller says that rest is when you do something different to your normal day-to-day job. So it doesn't really matter what you do to rest as long as it's different. So one of the problems is that Zoom is just very similar. We Zoom Seeyou, we Zoom uni, we Zoom church. It's just too similar. So where you can, just pick up the phone and talk to people, go on a walk with 6 people, maybe use different platforms. But I think it's what you do when you meet that probably makes Seeyou, you know, a really warm relational community that actually cares about people and communicates something of goodness and truth and beauty. But Zoom fatigue, I mean, it's interesting. It's mostly in America, in the West, in the UK, Norway, Ireland. I think Ireland was number 2 on Zoom fatigue in the world on Google Trends. So it is interesting. And again, this book by Tim Keller, The Self-Forgetfulness, that's a really good book to read in this time. Part of the Zoom fatigue is we're tired of looking at ourselves. So I always hide my camera so I can't see myself. And I'm tired of you looking at me and me looking at you looking at me. It's just exhausting. never do I have to look at myself so much. And so there are some things you can do to get rid of your self-view, will help you a little bit. But I never go to a meeting for more than 45 minutes. I just think it's too much. So just think about what your own capacity is, and then as leaders, just don't push people beyond that.
I was going to say on that now, I wonder if half the people on this call would suggest that CUI are probably the reason why that Zoom fatigue in Ireland has gone up. I imagine my CU leader would definitely suggest that. I think we're gonna end the Q&A there, not because there's not more good questions, but because as Nate's pointed out, we should stop. That was her hint in that last conversation. But we do want to thank that. Just before we do properly thank Nate, I want to just say we are, I don't know if Lizzie's able to share a little picture, across the north, we are looking to read Mark over the course of the summer. We're really, really passionate about, as we come out of this, you know, and again, poor Lizzie and Andy, who've heard me banging on about this for the last couple of weeks, I am so confident that as we come out of this, people will be crying out in desperation for something, and they don't realize that's the Lord. And I just feel that as we come through this season, we need to be a people of prayer and a people who are confident in God's word and willing to share that and read that with others. I just think as we come through this, it's going to be so important, and so important in our small groups and contexts as well. And so what we want to do, and what we were going to do, was we're going to have this massive, huge, exciting launch of Uncover Mark at a quick
I think Chris is having the same Wi-Fi problems that exist for me in Donaghadee. You guys have been very patient with us this evening as my Wi-Fi has gone in and out constantly. So thank you guys. I'll explain the rest of Uncover Mark. Unfortunately, you just have to listen to me. So again, we're going to have this massive pitch at a quip for a launch of the wonderful Uncover Mark, which actually Nay, again, our celebrity Nay tonight was so involved in creating, and it's a wonderful resource that we can read with our friends who don't yet know Jesus. And the questions are so cleverly laid out, such a relational way where we can allow them to ask questions and to really find out who Jesus is. And over summer, we want to build our own confidence in opening Mark by reading Mark throughout the summer, but also for us to be able to dive deeper into Mark for our own time with God and spend that time with him. So over summer, we're going to be reading Mark together, all of us, and you're so welcome to join with us as we read Mark together. I'm really excited about it. We have a proper schedule too. I wonder if I can get it up again. My Zoom skills are absolutely horrendous, but we have a schedule here that will allow us to go through Mark together week by week with different passages. And we'll be sharing our own encouragements for when we've been reading these passages with each other. And it's just a great thing to do in this time as we seek to have community with ourselves as well. And what a wonderful way to do that, by reading God's word together. And this will give us a confidence in the Gospel of Mark, but also as we come and hopefully read it with our friends. I've had such a joy reading Uncover John with one of my friends this year. She's a wonderful friend, and we've been able to look at who Jesus is for her and actually work through some of the questions she has about him that have come up through the Uncover John studies. So it really is an amazing opportunity to open God's word with your friends. So I hope you'll join with us in reading Mark over the summer. We're hoping to start that in the next couple of weeks, so make sure you continue to check out the Christian Unions Ireland Instagram page for that. But guys, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It really has been a joy to spend this evening with you. And thank you for the way you've engaged with this evening and the way that you have answered the questions. And thank you to Nay for coming to join us. It really has been such a joy to have you with us, Nay. And thank you for giving up your time to come and share with us. And it really has allowed us to think more about what this will mean for our Cs in September. And like Chris said earlier, don't let your thoughts stop now. Allow this to be a springboard for you guys as you think through what this next semester will look like, what Freshers Week will look like, what your small groups could do, and how God will be at work across Ireland next semester. It really has been a joy, guys, and I hope you all have a lovely week, and we'll hopefully chat again soon. Thank you for joining us. Bye, guys.
See you later.
I always like to see who's there right to the end.
So rogue.
Oh, what can someone tell me what happened? Like, I don't know what came out and what didn't come out.
Chris, you had a lovely face when it froze.
I mean, I literally my internet just stopped working, and I was like,